All right. Welcome back. Ho, ho, ho. Welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper Pre-Party Show. I am your host, Santa Sarge. I hope you all are having a great week. And I'm going to give people a chance to just kind of get in here. And while they do, I will go ahead and do the channel introductions and housekeeping and whatnot. So I am Sarge. It is not a military or police title. It is actually a fraternal nickname that I got from college, and I've had it for over 20 years. But if you're new to the channel, you might not know that. Here on the Prepping with Sarge, I talk about all things preparedness. We talk about basically how to increase your self-sufficiency, food self-sufficiency, somewhat financial preparedness, and wilderness survival skills. I talk about foraging. I've got tons and tons of videos out there, over 250 videos now. Check out my playlist. Definitely check out my Foraging for Wild Edibles and Medicinal Plants playlist, and I hope you enjoy those. I've got a interesting show for you tonight. I've kind of deviated off of my normal format. So I'm going to start with, after people start coming in, I'm going to get into the topic of the night. And then if you want to stay beyond that, I'm going to talk about some other things, some things that are going on in YouTube land, crazy YouTube land. I'm going to talk about some things going on with my channel. I'm going to talk about a little collab that's going on with some other prepper channels and prepper blogs. So stay with me. Yeah, I got some cool stuff for you planned for tonight. So, all right, Dove Season, so good to see you. Thank you for joining in. Always good to see you. I hope you're having a good weekend so far. And do you have anything fun planned? I'd love to hear in the chats as people are checking in, if there's anything that you've got going on this weekend. Would love to hear about it. So let's go right into today's topic while we're waiting. So before I go into today's topic, I am going to talk about some of the products listed down below in the description. I put links in the description below for some of the products that I have used personally in winter survival situations. Some of them are affordable. Some of them are a little bit more pricey. Keep in mind that over the next few weeks, I'm actually going to be talking about a lot of different things, a lot of different product reviews, some recommendations for Christmas, holiday shopping, things like that. But it's not all about the gear, right? So that's the most important thing. And I'm going to try to remember to say this each time I do one of these things. It's not all about the gear. The gear, obviously, if you've got a good budget to work with, you can get some good gear. But remember, people have survived for thousands of years through very, very difficult situations without the modern gear that we have today. So it's not a necessity, it's a luxury, right? And when I give you links or when I talk about some modern types of prepping kit, things like the Mr. Buddy heater and things like that, that's people didn't have that for thousands of years. It's not a necessity, it's a luxury. But if your budget affords it, it definitely can make life a little bit easier. Okay, Titus, good to see you. How are things in Japan? Has winter started to hit there yet? I would love to hear all about it. Hope you're doing well. So let's see. Let's get right into it. So earlier this week, I released a video that I interviewed my dad on Arctic survival, which is where I learned a lot of things. Hey, Fatima, it's good to see you. It's where I learned a lot of things about winter, cold weather survival. He taught me from a very young age, and I think he realized that I kind of took to it. I had an interest in these things and enjoyed the wilderness survival classes through scouts and things like that. So he taught me quite a bit, and it turned out later on in life I actually did end up having to use some of that when I was in Kentucky and we went through an ice storm that knocked out power for oh my gosh, this was either the winter of 2008 or 2009, I believe. It knocked out power for over a week. I think some people were without it for 2 weeks. And the house that I was living with was an old farmhouse, but the fireplaces were no longer functional. They had been blocked up long ago by the previous owners. So we basically had no heat in the house. That house did not have a propane system or natural gas. So we had no heat in the house. So we had to use some of these survival skills that he talked about in that video. One of which was to basically, bring all the pets into the bed with us so that everybody could stay warm. I did have some winter survival kit that helped us out. I had Arctic sleeping bags. Thankfully, those definitely are worth their money. I put some links down below. The ones that I bought are discontinued years ago. So those ones down below have really good ratings and reviews. I'm sure it's a good name brand. I'm sure that they would be probably as good or if not better than what I've used. bundling up and layering. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit as we go through, but that was one of the things that got us through. Now, one thing you should keep in mind is that, like, when you're in a situation like I'm talking about, where we had no heat in the house, you can survive for sure, right? You can survive, but it's not thriving, right? Like, so unless you've got like a kerosene heater or one of those Mr. Buddy heaters or something like that, you're going to be pretty limited in what you can do, right? Like, so you can, we had farm chores that we had to do. We had animals that we had to take care of. So that as you're moving around, that does warm you up to some extent. But when the temperature is sustained under 35 degrees Fahrenheit, I don't know what the translation there is in Celsius. If somebody wants to throw that in chat, by all means, feel free. It's even with that moving around, it is going to be hard to keep your body temperature up. So you are going to have to drink a ton of water, as my dad said in his video. You're going to have to drink a ton of water. You are going to have to make sure you're eating more calories because your body's burning off calories to stay warm. So this is where it's probably okay to have some of those, fatty foods around and things like that. It's not the best source of fuel, but a little bit extra fat will help you. I'm going to come back to the layering piece of it there, because that's where, if you've got a little bit of budget to work with, you can certainly make yourself a little bit more comfortable there. But you can do it by just layering up whatever clothes you have around the house. See, a couple people are checking in here. Let's see. Stuart's prepping. Good to see you. Stuart, good to see you. Hope you all are doing okay. That Japanese do it. So that's just a screen, a privacy screen, K Titus. It is obviously it's themed, Asian themed, but it's a little privacy screen. It actually helps in the room with a little bit with the sound bouncing around the walls. It tends to cut down on the echo a little bit too. So so that's kind of what we did. I ended up investing a kerosene heater after that, because we realized like that just would have made life so much easier. But we survived. You definitely want to have a way to heat up some food and to boil some water, because warm drinks will help you a little bit. So this is where if you have only electric stove, not a propane or natural gas or anything like that, then figure out some way that you can heat up water, whether it be getting a propane barbecue grill or one of those travel camp stoves, or even those little backpacking stoves. Those actually work pretty well. I used one on my camping trip recently, and I've got some videos that'll come out later on where I kind of show that. Works just fine. You can use something like that too, but you want to have, just for like warming up your insides and for morale, you want to have some warm liquids and warm food as well. So trying to think what else we did. Pre-winter, you want to seal up, and it's still, for most of us here in the United States, there's still plenty of time to do this, but you want to start sealing up your cracks in your windows and things like that. If you have really old house with single pane windows, those kits that you get with the plastic sheeting and then you use the blow dryer to tighten it up, those do help. Because they seal off. If you take a thermal reading outside your house of where your heat is getting lost from, you would see that most of it is coming out through the doors, the windows, and the roof, right? So if you seal off your windows, and to some extent you seal off your door, or you try to block those cracks, things like that, it does help a lot with retaining what heat is in the house. Now, if you have a natural gas stove, that opens up some other opportunities for you. You could actually turn on the oven and bake. Just make sure you got your carbon monoxide detectors and whatnot. But turn on the oven and you can bake, and that will actually heat up that room. And you could pile everybody into the kitchen area, seal off that room with like blankets over the doors, things like that. And that makes that room much, much more habitable than the rest of the house. As far as like if power's out for a long period of time inside your home and you don't know when it's going to come back on, it's always a good idea to dribble the faucets a little bit. That will help. It doesn't guarantee that your pipes won't freeze, but it helps. Moving water is a little bit harder to freeze. I do recommend that you get some pipe insulation, and before the winter comes, you go around the house and you cover with pipe insulation any of the exposed pipes, especially outside. If you can get under your house and do that as well, that will help. I put links to the pipe insulation down below as well. So those are some of the ideas right off the top. Bionic Fishy Fish, is so good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Are you got anything good going on this weekend? I'm really, I appreciate the comments that you left there from my dad. I will pass those on. I knew you were airborne. I thought you were 101 Screaming Eagles. Hey, Prepper Days, good to see you. But you were 508 is what you had said. So I will tell him that. And Bricktown, is he 101? Is he 101st? I forgot to ask him that as well. So yeah, back to our winter survival here. So the pipes, heating, we talked about the stove. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. I do think if you live in an area that's prone to cold weather, like even here in Charleston, like I'm in the deep south, we still get like 3 or 4 weeks of pretty cold weather where it can drop down below 40 degrees. We did get snow a couple of years ago. That thumbnail that you see was from a snowstorm here in Charleston, actually. That was a few years ago. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. But even if we don't get snow or ice, we do get sustained cold temperatures, usually in like late January through like mid-February, and then it starts to warm up again. So that's 3 weeks of potentially pretty cold weather. We got rid of a lot of our cold gear. When we moved here, I gave it away to people in Kentucky who needed it more than I did, donated a lot of it, but I still have some, so if you don't have the kind of stuff that I talk about here, the Mr. Buddy heater or the kerosene heater, if you don't have like really good Arctic sleeping bags, layer up with as much as you can. That base layer, if you've got it, should be some kind of material that can pull the moisture off your body. Because when we sweat, that's what makes us cold. And in the cold weather, as my dad talked about in his video, very, very dangerous. So you want to have the sweat pulling away from the body. And this is where the modern gear really has an advantage of the stuff, over, 50, 60 years ago. So Under Armour has a product line called Coldgear. I linked some of that in the description. You can check that out. I do own that. I do think it's worth the money if you can afford it. If you can't, then do the best you can. I mean, they sell fabrics that are similar to that at Walmart and Target. I think Starter is one of the brand names. It will work too. I've got some of those and have used those as well. You can get those thermals as your second layer, right? So your second layer might be like something like out of the thermal section from Walmart or Target. Your third layer, maybe if you're sleeping, might be your flannel pajamas, which I link some of those down below, but you can also get those from Target or Walmart or whatever stores are near you. And then if it's daytime, you're probably going to put on another layer, which is maybe going to be, Carthartts or something like that. Whatever your thickest winter clothing is going to be your next layer, right? So your base layer is going to be something that wicks the moisture off your body. Your next layer is going to be something that's kind of insulated and thermal. Next layer after that's going to be thick. And the next layer after that is going to be whatever your strongest, thickest layer is. So Carthartt is a great band. I linked several products from Carthartt in below. If you're bald like me, you want to have some kind of hat to retain your head warmth. Even if you have a full head of hair, that like wool cap will help you. Wool is a great fabric. And if it's too itchy for you, because I know that wool has a tendency to be kind of scratchy and itchy. But if you can't take that, then fleece or something similar is softer, and you can get like a fleece cap. Merino wool and alpaca wool are much softer. They're not as scratchy. I have tons of socks in that, which is really good. You want to kind of do a couple layers of that. Under Armour actually makes a base layer sock too, and I do have a few of those. And I used to wear those when I was playing airsoft to just pull the moisture off my feet as I was running around in the heat. So it can be used for hot or cold, and those work really good underneath your boots. All right, let's see. Family Man Preppers, good to see you. Santa hat can work well if it's a good quality one. Central Arizona here. Yeah, but Arizona gets pretty cold at nighttime too, right? Especially the desert areas. My brother lives out there. You have a chance of survival. I think you're going to be all right, Fish. I think you're going to be all right. In fact, if it could be 62 year round, I would take that. Hey, Angie, it's good to see you. This is a really good idea right here. Dove Season says set up a pup tent in the living room for the kids because it will to some extent contain that body heat within that first layer of building, right? That's a really good idea. Jetboil makes quick coffee. Yep, those are really good to have. All right, some really good suggestions here. Yep, I think that's where that expression comes from, right? Like sleeping with the dogs. My dad talked about that in that video of the sled dog operators sleeping with their sled dogs to stay warm. So going back to the ice storm, right? So we always, I don't do this here because it's such an infrequent thing, but in Kentucky, right before the winter started, I always would stock up on ice melter as well, right? Rock salt or something similar to that. And you want to get it before everybody else does. There's usually a run on it, and then it's hard to find. So this time of year, if you haven't already got it, I used to go out and get like 30 pounds of it, and that way I just had it, so that like if you get an ice storm or a snowstorm, your steps can be really, really slippery, and you don't want a mechanical injury, especially if things are being shut down or the roads are closed and you can't get to the hospital. You don't want a broken hip, you don't want a broken leg, you don't want a twisted ankle. Like none of that is going to be a good time. So a little bit of ice melter, and I used to keep some of that in the car as well, so that if I was stuck or I came across somebody who was stuck, I might be able to use that, to kind of give them enough traction to get out of there. So I always kept like 10 pounds of that in my car in the wintertime as well, as well as a small shovel, some extra blankets, things like that in case your car broke down. I always keep those hand warmers. I love those hand warmers. They will not, they're not the difference between, you're not going to feel like tropical heat with it, but they help, right? Like, so if your hands are getting numb from the cold, crack one of those, put your gloves on and slip it in the gloves. It does help. Crack one of those, put them in your sock, and then put your boot on. It will help. So we keep stacks and stacks of those. I've used ones that were years old, and they seem to still function just fine. So those are fantastic. Keep some in the house, keep some in your vehicle. Always, if you live in one of those areas, you want to have good windshield scraper and brush in your car. You all think of anything else you want to add into there? So stock up your pantry, right? Like, so that's another big one. Stock up your pantry because you don't want to be that person who's fighting for the last can of SpaghettiOs because the weatherman just called for an ice storm. You just have it in advance. Now's the time to get it. Lots and lots of comfort food, I think, is good if you know a storm's coming. Like I said, that's when the time when it's like it's okay to have those cookies and candies and things like that, as long as you're not diabetic or glucose sensitive or something like that. Then you got to follow your doctor's advice. But if you're not in those categories, having some fatty, sugary foods will not only boost your morale when the power's out and you're freezing, but it also will give you a little bit of extra calories to burn. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else. Bear with me here just a second. I want to look at my notes, see if I forgot anything for y'all. Yeah, the wool socks. If you can do it, get some extra blankets. If you can't get like good wool, then get what you can afford. Just stuff them in the closet, stuff them under the bed. If you lose power in the wintertime, you're going to be glad you got them. Yeah, check out my list there. I put a list of some of the favorites that we have there. One thing that's not on there, but I am going to upgrade to this year, I've been saying it for several years, is the touchscreen gloves. So, you want to have some really heavy duty gloves for when you have to work outside. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got to be careful with that because that actually does lower body temperature. But, it's a little bit would actually help to boost morale. Just be sensible about that. I feel like if you're not somebody who that's a dangerous issue for, like some people don't need to have that in the house, but if you're that's not an issue for you, then yeah, that's something that we keep around as a prep. Angie, you've been shopping. Have you seen any good deals on winter coats on your shopping trips? If you all don't know, Angie Hart 67 there does. She goes out on her videos and she takes us shopping and shows us all the cool little deals. It's a really fun channel. I enjoy watching that, seeing what's out there because I like to window shop. I think that's going to be it for my tips. But if you guys want to throw other tips in there, and then I want to get to a couple other things here before. So if you're only here if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed my content, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you're watching and this was helpful at all. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're only here for the cold weather stuff, I'm going to end that piece of it here. But I do have a couple other things I was going to talk about, including what's going on with YouTube and this little collaboration I got going with several other prepper channels. So let's talk about that one first. So I'm involved with a collaboration with several other channels. In fact, I'm going to tell you who's involved right now. And I put links, excuse me one second here. I put links to all of their channels or their blogs in the description. But this is a little collaboration for the holidays, trying to give people ideas for holiday gifts for the prepper in your life. And if that prepper's you, then you can give this to your loved ones and say, hey, this would be a really cool gift, right? Keep in mind that, the holidays, yeah, it shouldn't be all about gifts. Definitely not. I'm Christian myself. It should be about faith and family and gratitude and thanks and all of those things. And homemade gifts are always better than store-bought gifts. Spending time with your loved ones is always better than a gift. But also, holiday gifts for many families are part of the tradition. So we're throwing out some ideas. That's part of what this collaboration is about. And this is a collaboration with Allison from This Prepared Life, Cascadia Dispatch, FEM Prepper, Creek Homestead, Miranda from Our Busy Acre, Muthaprepper, MAMABEAR Prepper, and the Preparedness Guy, and Archery Empress. So I have all of their links in description. You can check them out. And you will be seeing over the next few weeks several videos from me and from these content creators about some of the recommendations that we have. I'm going to try to make sure that I do all different kinds of budgets. So there'll be stuff in there for somebody who's trying to spend under $10. And for your big spenders out there, there's definitely will be some options for that as well. Of course, when you use any of my affiliate links, I may get a small commission from that. I do appreciate it. It's one of the ways you can help out the channel. YouTube does not give me a lot of revenue. I promise you that YouTube does not give me a lot of revenue. I'm thankful for the little bit of ad revenue that I get, but it really is just a tiny bit amount. When you all use my affiliate links, it helps me out so much more. And I don't see who buys what. I can't see it. So I just know that I thank you. I see that people do use my links, and it does help me. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So that's the collaboration we got going on for that. I will be talking about a lot of that stuff in the next few weeks, giving you all kinds of different recommendations. And if you use my links, that's great. If you don't, still these may be some things that you might find interesting or helpful for yourself or for the prepper in your life. Hey, Bacon, it's good to see you. Burlington's got some good deals on winter coats, Angie Hart said. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Dove Season says, consider layering a plastic tarp with your blankets. Reflects heat back towards you. Okay, that's cool. Extra bodies. Yep, extra bodies. Definitely get everybody. If you're dealing with a situation like this and the power's out and it's a winter power outage, you want to get everybody in the same bed. It's about survival. Angie says, have a blanket, gloves, and snack in your car. I agree with that. Get your car winterized. Thank you for mentioning that. I didn't think of that one. So, yeah, so that's a couple things. Number one, check your antifreeze. Check your antifreeze levels in your car. You don't want your engine freezing. Check your tires, not just for the treads, but for the pressure. You want to have good tires in the snow, the best tires that you can afford, really, whatever your budget is for that. Some areas where if it's extreme snow, You may even think about getting chains for your tires. I've never had to do that, even when I lived in Massachusetts. But some areas that does that's kind of a necessity. Thank you. That's a good suggestion. Oh, and windshield washer fluid. Check your windshield washer fluid, because you will go through more of that in the wintertime, especially with the salt on the road. There are windshield washer fluids that have like a de-icing element to it too. So you can see if that's something that you're interested in. That's right. That's right, Bacon. You pile them in there. Pile those bodies in there. I love it. Let's get into YouTube. So YouTube's at it again. YouTube's at it again. I debated all day long how I wanted to even go into this. So let me go into the good news first. So a couple months back, I mentioned that YouTube was rolling out a new feature. You may have seen it on some channels where there's like a super thanks button. It's different from when you guys give me like a sticker thanks or super chat. It's actually for other videos as well, and people can give you like a PayPal tip, except it's through YouTube. I've seen that on numerous channels, but they haven't rolled it out to all channels yet. I don't know what the deal is, but I've seen it on big channels, and I've seen it on small channels, and I've seen some big channels, like really big channels, that don't have it. It's kind of weird. So I assume that that's still coming for those of us who don't have it. The other big news, well, two more things, and I'll make the bad news the last part of it. The dislikes, this is kind of neutral, I guess. I'm curious, you guys can put in chat what you think about this, but the dislike button is going to be going to like an invisible mode. What does that mean? So people will still be able to leave you dislikes, but the count won't be shown. Like the creator will be able to see that when they go into their analytics in their studio. The audience will not be able to see how many dislikes a video has gotten. So I'm curious what you all think about this. I have mixed feelings about it myself. Sometimes I've clicked on videos that were just really, really bad. That was just a waste of the audience's time, clickbaity, that kind of thing. And it's kind of helpful to go in there and you see it's got 3 likes and 347 dislikes, and you're like, oh, something's up with this video. And then 30 seconds in, you figure out what it is. Don't waste your time anymore. So part of me feels like that's helpful. On the other hand, there's a lot of people who just like go out and troll brigade and will leave dislikes on a video. And I never minded a dislike. A dislike is an engagement. What that troll doesn't understand is it actually still helps your channel, because every time somebody clicks on something or leaves a comment or does something, it actually helps you a little bit in the algorithm. So it's really not something that the creator should get too upset about. But on the other hand, by leaving a dislike but no feedback, like I never minded when somebody left me a comment that said, hey, your video was trash, you need to work on your audio or something like that, your lighting stinks, that's fine. The feedback actually helps me, like I know what I need to work on. But there are people who will just like go around and follow a certain creator, and every time they upload a video, we'll give them a dislike. And that's just not helpful. It doesn't do anything except to a small extent helps the creator. So for that purpose, I can see why they want to make it invisible. But what do you all think? And that's not the last piece of this. Rain-X windshield wiper fluid is good. And also the Rain-X wipers is good. That's another area. Like when I'm doing upgrades on my vehicles, 2 things I never skimp on is tires. I will buy the best tires that I can afford within my budget and the best wipers that I can afford within my budget. Fishy Fish doesn't like the disappearing dislikes. That's the rumor that it has something to do with that, but I think they were actually thinking about it like as of the summer. I saw some stuff on Creator Insider where they were actually talking about it a while ago. I'm talking about like last June. I agree with that, Fishy Fish. I agree with that. Like if you're gonna give a dislike, and that was what I was always taught in the workplace too, right? Like so if I was gonna give criticism to my employer, my supervisor, that I should always give some kind of feedback, like why, not just like, hey, this place stinks, but this place stinks because you're not paying your employees enough or whatever. I'm making up a scenario. This place stinks because you're mandating overtime and you're not paying people overtime, right? So you always, that was what I was taught, is if you're going to give negative feedback, always give a reason and always give a suggestion on how to fix it too. So I kind of agree with that. Everyone gets a trophy. Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like. Yeah. All right, so that's I love it. All right, so the last thing here, this is it for me for tonight. And so while I'm talking about this, if you all have anything, I love to help each other out here. It's all about supporting each other in the community. If you have anything you want to plug, any videos that you get coming out this weekend or in the upcoming week, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below so that everybody can check out what you got coming up. And do that now while I'm telling you about this last little piece. Now, if you don't follow a YouTube channel called Creator Insider, I would encourage you to go ahead and subscribe and follow them. That's like the official YouTube source. I don't know why it's not called official YouTube. It's Creator Insider, and it's a lot of times it's employees from YouTube or consultants for YouTube that gives you information about what they're working on, how the algorithm is changing, changes that are coming. So it always gives you a little preview of what's coming. Now let me sidetrack here for just a second. Another channel that I'm going to recommend for you to follow is called YouTube Analyzed. He's not affiliated with YouTube. It is a channel, and he does things where he basically tries to crack the algorithm and figure it out. And he maintains a list of words that will get you demonetized, which, why is that even secret, right? This is a frustration of not just me, but many creators. If there's a word that I can't say because it's going to get me demonetized, then just publish that. Make it publicly available so I know that I can't say the word that starts with a C and ends with a D. I can't talk about events like a certain terror attack that happened in the United States in 2001. I actually got crap from YouTube about my video about that, right? Just be clear. That's the problem. That's why people get frustrated with this platform. And if you're watching this, YouTube, I hope you're listening, right? This is why people get frustrated. And a lot of people will say, well, it's their platform. They can do what they want. It's a private platform. Yep, 100% agree. I support that. I'm just asking for a little bit more transparency because I try to go by the rules. And those of you guys who watch my channel regularly, now you see I'm getting on a rant. Those of you guys who watch my channel regularly, you know that I avoid certain topics intentionally because I try to be a rule follower. But it's frustrating when the rules of the game aren't clear, right? So there's a list of 17,000 words and phrases, and I'm not kidding you, 17,000 that the algorithm will pick up if you mention in your video or if you have it in your title that has the chance, it doesn't always happen, has the chance of getting your video demonetized. Make that public, right? That's all I'm asking, and that's all other creators are asking. So we know the rules of the game, right? It's like we're entering Squid Game and you don't tell us the rules. That's what it feels like all the time. And a friend of mine who's a creator got suspended from his social media. It wasn't YouTube, but it was one of the parent. It was Twitter, for just talking about something that was in the public news. He did not talk about it in a way that was offensive at all. He was just giving an opinion. It wasn't debating facts. It wasn't conspiracy theory. It was none of the above. He said something that the algorithm didn't like, and he got suspended. And I'm not going to name that person. He watches my channel, so he probably knows who I'm talking about. And we talk on Instagram, and that's how I knew that this happened. Just really, really, really frustrating. So here's the final piece of it. And then I'm going to put us, I promise I'll leave you guys in a good mood. It's only water, by the way. All right, here's the final piece of it. So for years, some channels have been saying, hey, I feel like I got shadow banned, right? And there was always a denial that shadow bans exist. All content is created equal. We hold these truths to be self-evident. No, you don't. All content was created equal, but it's not treated equal. Okay, so they finally, in one of these Creator Insider episodes just recently, after years of denying that shadow bans exist, they acknowledge that shadow bans exist, except they don't call it shadow ban. They call it borderline content. Okay. Again, make the rules clear so that you think you're being clear, but you're not. Because if you were, less people will be running into these problems. So make the rules clear. They call it borderline content. And so borderline content is stuff that they say is too edgy, right? That they don't want to promote it. And so when they shadow ban you, when they put you in borderline content status, what they do is they won't promote your videos. And so you won't get recommended. And this is why sometimes when people say, hey, I didn't get a notification. This is probably why, I can't prove this, because it's not clear, it's not transparent, the policies and procedures are not transparent. This is probably why sometimes when you leave a comment on somebody's video, the comment mysteriously disappears, right? So this is what's happening to certain content. And I get it to some extent, right? I get it that there's people who are putting out false information and they don't want that to happen. I get it. But there's a lot of us who are not doing that, who are trying to obey and respect the rules. And it's very frustrating when we can't talk about anything without feeling like, oh, I have to show you cute kittens or comedy. It has to be very safe comedy. It can't be edgy comedy. And if I do anything outside of that realm, right, or I guess I can upload and steal people's viral TikTok videos, because that seems to be a popular thing to do, right? And those get shown millions and millions of times on the short shelf, stolen content. But my friend who was just talking about something in the news this week in a very neutral, non-offensive, non-conspiratorial tone gets a shadow ban. I'm sorry, labeled as not recommended, right? That's my rant. Go ahead down to the comments down below. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. And I know a lot of people will come on here later on and say, well, just go to another platform. Hey, you know what? If another platform comes up that is competitive, they will get a lot of people. But I've looked at those other platforms right now, Mumbles and Rumbles and all this other nonsense, and it's not there, guys. It's not quality, from my opinion. Okay, that's just a personal opinion. And there's no audience there, right? The audience is not big enough. That's why we try to work on YouTube within YouTube's rules. And all we're asking is some transparency for the rules to be laid out and be crystal clear, so that we don't walk up to that line and get ourselves into trouble. I don't think that's that much to ask. All right. Let me check your comments here real quick. So I don't know him, but if you want to, sure. 17,000. Yep. Check out. It's called YouTube Analyzed, and the guy's name is Andrew Platt, and he is a real credit to the community. He tries to make transparent what the platform seems to refuse to. All right, appreciate you, Dove Season. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I'm going to end with something positive here. So, I try to, and I'm sorry about every once in a while, like maybe once every 2 months or so. If you're new to the channel, I do go on a rant like that once every 2 months. But for the most part, it's a happy channel. I try to keep things positive here, right? I try to encourage people. I'm constantly shouting out my peers. I encourage you to check out each other's channels. So it's a very positive place. If this is your first time here, I apologize for my little rant there. It had to be said. Make sure I'll make sure you get out this weekend, do something fun. We are getting to visit with some of our friends on Sunday. This is actually my best friend. He and his wife moved to North Carolina a couple months ago. This is with my godson that you guys sometimes hear me about. So they're coming to visit. So I'm going to get to see them on Sunday. And we're going to watch some football, and I'm going to get some garden work done. I got to do some cleanup in the garden. Life is too short. Don't stay angry. Like, see how I'm already pulling myself out of that. And for those of you who don't know, in my first job, I'm a therapist. I do, I work with people on how to get yourself out of those angry situations. You just gotta, a lot of times you have to do radical acceptance, a lot of times, which means basically accepting there's things that I cannot change, but you have to also work within your power to change that which you can. That's why I'm using my platform as my voice to the extent that I can. And letting things go, right? So if nothing changes, then I'm still going to do the best I can for you all here. I try to stay within the rules. I try to stay within the bounds as best as I understand them, because my goal here is to provide good, useful prepping skills for the community. And If I get myself into trouble, then I can no longer do that. And that's why I don't talk about certain topics, because I try to stay within those bounds. So make sure you're getting outside this weekend. Make sure you do something fun with your loved ones. Make sure you can see here, guys, I got my Star Wars Christmas sweater on. So as soon as I finish up my live stream, I'm going out there. My wife and I are going to watch. Disney Plus has released the Legacy of Boba Fett special. It's like 22 minutes or something like that. So we're going to go enjoy that. And I am going to have some fun this weekend. I hope you all are going to have fun. And as always, I always appreciate everybody popping into my live stream and sharing a little bit of your Friday night with me. See if we got any more plugs here. All right, check out the Safety Doc podcast, y'all. I will check that out as well. Yeah, I try fish. I try to. It doesn't do any. Anger is an emotion that can be healthy and useful. How you use your anger is what is important, right? So it doesn't do me any good doesn't do anybody any good to rage, right? Rage is not going to get anything good accomplished. So use your anger in a good way to get accomplished what you can get accomplished. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. Actually, let me see if I can show you guys. It used to light up, but it's several years old now, so it's like the lights are kind of dead on it. There we go, a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. My wife bought me this. It only comes out at Christmas time, of course. But yeah, I do fish. I try to stay positive. I try to I don't want people to come on my channel and walk away being more angry and cynical. Like there's plenty in the world for that to be angry and cynical about. So I want to give people why I focus the way I focus on my channel is I want to focus on skills. I want to focus on teaching people independence financially, food self-sufficiency, and skills like, if you're lost in the woods, if you like to go hiking and camping, things like that. That's where I try to stay within my realm. And for the most part, I stay out of all the other stuff. I will occasionally make a comment about it, but usually if I'm making a comment about it, it relates to something else, like the financial preparedness. So I may talk about politics only in the extent that it may affect the price of stocks, or it might affect the dollar, or it might affect silver and gold, or cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. And I'll continue to do that. That's what my channel is about. There's other channels that cover those other territories, and I don't need to go into there. There's plenty of room on this platform for everybody to find their own little niche. All right. So I appreciate everybody. I'm not going to keep you anymore. Ace is up. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate it. Bacon, are you going live later on? Bacon usually does a Friday night live stream too. So I don't know if he's still in the chat or not, but check out his channel as well. It's a lot of fun. He just kind of gets rolling and is good dialogue to listen to. He gets the audience involved, and lately he's had a lot of guests on there and stuff. So make sure you check out Bacon's channel, and he's been a real good supporter here too. I really appreciate you. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend to you too, Angie. Everybody have a great weekend. Hug your family, love your family, do something fun, take good care of yourself, get outside, keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver, and Bacon is going live later on, so make sure you check that out. Have a good weekend, everybody.